wanted to talk about this Scarifier and power rake combo unit here from Garten. The model number VA378E, E for electric, the rest of it not quite sure. I know it's a pretty good, well-made machine from a good brand. The overall, what I want to talk about, not necessarily overall the product, this is definitely not a review. I'll actually talk about the springs on the power rake attachment, which we'll get to. If you're not already familiar with this machine, I don't think you'd be looking at this, but I think what's key is the level of performance you're going to get from such a machine and the associated power rake attachment called, let's see, the spindle. It's a WAS 3701 on that spindle. I'll get more to the reason why I know that number by heart and the associated individual springs that, from my perspective, I don't know, the quality of the springs are not great. The overall machine is great though. The motor is powerful. The adjustments, the functionality, the build, everything is, yeah, great. I just think that the springs there's some engineering to be done for those. And I'll tell you the nightmare I went through with Garten and the respective supply chain that they do or do not support within the market. I believe this machine is fundamentally developed. Of course, it's all under the brand from Robert Bosch, and they own a variety of brands. Is it Bosch? No, Black & Decker, not Bosch. Black & Decker, that owns all of these brands underneath, to include DeWalt, and I don't know, there's like 10 brands that they own. This is one that they acquired, and I don't really understand how a large company like Black & Decker, with a global supply chain and global products and global sales, have such poor after sales support in terms of parts. That's what I'm going to get to. On the bottom of this machine, you can see that there is the attachment right there for the, I'll call it the power rake. There's a few different conflicting names for these, but effectively I bought this machine where I'm located in Norway. Within, of course, the northern climates, there's a fair amount of moisture and opportunity to grow moss, which is exactly what this lawn is doing. But this spindle is, and I want to call these just general big numbers, around, geez, I think it's, let's say 50 or 70 euros for this spindle. It does come with these springs, obviously all pre-attached. There's 24 springs. The space that I've used this on is around 500 square meters, which is an average lot size for any, either in the US or in Europe. I'd say it's a larger lot size. It's not, it's pretty standard. So I'm not talking about using this for any kind of commercial environment, but I use this exactly for, I would say, running hours, 4 hours. And through those 4 hours, I didn't even realize it while I was, but I lost, what was it, 18 of the 24 springs. The springs would, most of them would break right there. Some of them would break on the other side of the spring where it's locked in. But the thickness and the gauge of the springs are probably, I would say, adequate. You want them to be thin enough, from my perspective, that they actually rake and they can slice through the blades of grass and get down into the thatch and down into the moss and bring it up. So it does, mechanically it does a great job. I mean, I've never used a machine before this, I've always just dealt with raking manually, and of course the tines on a rake are quite wide, and you can't, those tines will never get down into the thatch, or it's at least very difficult. With these wires, it's fantastic. They just dig straight down in and pull up an unbelievable amount of material, whether it be thatch and or moss. Okay, so you can see on this, all of the springs are here, and that's because I've actually replaced all of the springs. I haven't taken a look at whether they're still all here, because I have used it again just for a few moments after I replaced these springs, but they seem to be all still here, and even the springs up on top. But what I want to talk about is the original springs. So these springs I purchased, I had to purchase the springs alone. If you look at the Garten parts list, you cannot find these springs. First of all, of any supplier, okay, let me back up the whole picture. I wanted 18 out of these 24 springs were broken. I tried to find, okay, a replacement spindle. I realized it's whatever I said, 50 to 70 euro or 600, 700 kroner here in Norway. And I said, well, okay, that's pretty expensive, but this plastic spindle itself and the way it's made, it is very strong. It's well made, well engineered. So the structure itself, okay, it's worth, let me say, a higher price. It is quality. However, you cannot find that spindle anywhere in stock, anywhere. I even contacted Garten directly in their support in Germany. I'm pretty sure they're in Germany, and they admit that they haven't been able to get these in stock. They'll still sell the brand new machine with this included, so obviously they're able to, but they're not selling, or they're not providing enough supply to have enough inventory for these spindles, which is, and that went on not just for a few weeks or a few months, that went on for 2 years. I was not pleased. I went through their supply with respect to asking them, well, what about the springs? Can you sell me this? Well, yeah, you can contact one of our dealers, they can get them for you. I'm like, what does that mean? They end up selling one spring for 4 euros, which is, it's crazy. I mean, I refuse to pay 4 euros for it. I mean, it's going to cost twice the price of a whole. It's cost twice the price of a whole brand new spindle, and I wasn't really particularly pleased with the quality of the springs. I searched Amazon in Germany, Amazon.de, and I found these springs that claim to be a one-for-one replacement for this specific model number, this 378E. And indeed, I did order 3 complete sets just to compensate for the fixed price for the shipping. And that was a bit of a nightmare mess as well, because the supplier is apparently in Poland, and they ended up, tax-wise, I already had to pay 25% VAT, but they screwed up the shipping in the way they're supposed to do the, what is it called, VOEC shipping, where they collect the VAT on my behalf and they pay the Norwegian government directly. But they screwed up on the filing for the tax process. So they collected my 25%, but then when the actual springs get here to Norway, because it wasn't done correctly, I had to pay it again, and there's no means for reimbursement from anybody. They're all claiming that they did it correctly, which I have evidence, clear evidence that they did not. And even the toll.no, the government here said they did not do it correctly. It wasn't a big thing, but I mean, it's 25%, so I ended up paying 50% just in tax. Ended up costing me, I don't know, 120 euro just for some bunch of springs. Okay. With that said, the next continuation will be just a quick look at the springs from the originals and the subsequent other broken ones, because I said these are the original ones. Were 18 out of the 24 were broken. Then I replaced them with a complete set of new springs from this third-party supplier from Poland. And in general, without exact numbers, almost the same exact failure rate over the same exact operational time of about 3 hours. Another 18 out of the 24 broke. It might have been 17 or 19, but just it was almost spot on. So it's like they're using the same materials. And I understand that, you know, there's a balance between tensile strength and flexibility and what kind of metals are being used. But having 18 break in 3 hours, the settings that I've had for the height and the power have all been moderate. I'm not going super deep into the thatch. I don't have a lot of moss. So it's not like I'm stressing these blades, these tines, to some level that is over, stressing the tine and design of the, I guess they're under designed, the springs. I see no reason why a better metal could not be sourced. That has the right number of, I think it's the flexibility. Obviously, with running this thing 3 hours, those springs and each of those tines are bending based on the revolutions and what it's being pulled into. But I mean, car springs and a variety of other materials are used at a much higher duty cycle than 3 hours under this machine, especially for the price of the whole spindle. All right, that's like I said, the next section I'll just kind of bring into my workshop where I show you the broken tines and how they're broken, where they're broke. All right, that's it. Continuing with that video on the Garten 378E, I expressed that I would show the aftermath of the multiple iterations of changing the springs. Okay, so in the original shaft, the original springs, I said 18 out of the 24 were broken. Yeah, so these are indeed the 6 that were good, that did not break, but I did remove them, so I installed 24 new springs on the spindle. I used it again for about, I would say, another 3 hours, inspected it, and once again, another set of 18 broken. Ironically, the same number. So I removed all of those, both the broken ones as well as the remaining ones, because I figured, okay, if 18 are broken, the remaining 6 are going to break pretty soon. So I installed yet another full set of springs. And these are an example of the springs that were broken. So I'm not sure what exactly can be done with the metallurgy, with the tensile strength and all the rest of the physics dynamics of how these springs are designed, but they're all pretty consistently breaking in the same way. You can see they're all right. They have that holding leg coil, and then the spring tine would come out. It's breaking there, pretty consistently. That one broke on both spots. I think they're all breaking in the same exact way. Yeah. So it's right there at that leverage point. It's almost as though the spring, if it's intended to act as a spring, it's not actually coiling to absorb some of the energy as the tine spins around, and but rather it is just shearing as a function of the bending of the spring. As that tine is digging in, it seems as though the coil is not, if it's designed to coil, I don't know. But they're pretty strong springs. There is some give, but I can't imagine that coil is going to spring too much, but rather the failure point is going to be right there on that spindle shaft where the most of the torque is. And these are the replacement springs I said I purchased. Looks like I have basically one more set to go. And I don't know what to think. The good thing is I have completed the yard twice, and I have removed a fair amount of moss, as well as the thatch that I was trying to accomplish. So I'm hoping that I don't need to do this too often in terms of maybe even every year, but I must say I think I'm going to run through a package of these springs every 3 hours of use, with the setting on that machine not even set real low, so at a very modest shallow level. That's it. All right, again, those are the original springs from Wolfgarten, and just to show, the replacement ones are, I mean, they're an exact match as far as the size, the design, and if I were to say the strength, as far as when I have played with these, there is some spring on the aftermarket. It feels very similar to the original. Obviously not a particularly well-designed test, but I think the replacements are good enough. And these were, like I said, the originals. They're stupid expensive from Wolfgarten, what they want, especially after you have to go through a local dealer with their markup, whatever that is, and local VAT tax. These came from this third-party supplier and from Amazon.de out of Poland as a, what do you call it, marketplace reseller. And these are about €1 each, more or less. All right, that's all I got. Later.